Welcome to my channel. I'm Car Things, and I'm going to be showing you how I detail headlights on my custom cars. First, you're going to need some supplies, and I have some supplies laid out here. So we're going to need some paint markers. I have some over here. You're going to need some tin foil. I have this little tray for my rubbing alcohol that I'll be using to clean my brush. I have some toothpicks, the rubbing alcohol. I have two brushes, two different sizes, and some Q-tips in case that we mess up while we are detailing the headlights. And of course, we have our cars that we're gonna be doing. So let's get started. So when I start, I go ahead and pour some alcohol into this little tray that I have here. This is gonna be used for our paint brushes to clean them. Then I have this tin foil that I'm gonna be using to put the paint markers, paint, on this tin foil so then we can dab it with the brush and then detail the headlights for our car. So what I'll go ahead and do is I'll just go ahead and open it, and then I'll just do some dabs on this tin foil and have it give it a little puddle. Now the markers that I use, they are oil-based. I have used acrylic, but I think oil-based pens have worked the best for me. So this is the kind of pens that I use. Then we're gonna go ahead and get our brush. We're gonna go ahead and just lightly dab to get the full coverage on the brush. We're gonna grab our car and we're gonna actually start out first by coloring the whole headlight black. So I'm gonna show you. Don't worry about making any mistakes because all those can be fixed. So just carefully make sure that you cover the whole headlight black. Once we have one side, we're gonna go ahead back dab our brush and we're gonna do the other side. And so this is what it should look like once we are done with the first part of our headlights. We have gotten a nice coverage of black across the whole headlight, and we are gonna move on to the second part. Since I'm done using the black, I'm gonna go ahead and clean it with the alcohol that I have here. And this rubbing alcohol takes off the paint pretty nicely, and then I just kind of dry it off with my glove right here like this. Now it's nice and dry. We are gonna go ahead and move on to our next color, and that's gonna be white. That's gonna basically kind of give the detail of the headlights a little bit more of a pop. I'm gonna go ahead and dab that. Now we're gonna go ahead and cover our brush with this white paint. And we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next step. So what I'll go ahead and do is I'll go ahead and cover most of this headlight with white, but I'll leave the edges black. Try not to put too much paint because it will mix with the black underneath. Once we're done with that, you can see that the headlight has some definition now. Obviously, we are not done yet. We still have a little bit more to go through, but we're gonna go ahead and do the second part of the headlight, same exact way that we did the first part. And you can notice that right here, I've left the edges around the whole headlight black. And that's just to make the headlight give a little bit more definition to them. And don't worry about making mistakes, because that's all part of the process. Once we are happy with the second headlight, it should look something like this. So huge difference from what it was to what it is now. And now we're gonna go ahead and start to add in the nice details to these headlights to make them really stand out. So again, we're gonna make sure that we go ahead and clean our brush. And we'll just dab dab it back up to dry it off. The reason why I do this is because if I go ahead and go into the alcohol and then straight into the paint was going to be really watery, and then it's also going to go ahead and ruin the paint that's underneath that I'm kind of covering over. So that's why I go ahead and dry it out, then wait for the paint to dry a little bit, and then go ahead with the second color on top. All right, so we are going to move over back to the black now. We're going to dab a little bit. And then here, we're just gonna go ahead and after we get some paint on it, we're just gonna smear a little bit off, just so there's not a lot of paint, it's very, very thin. And we're gonna go ahead into making some lines on top of our second layer that we made. So I usually have a reference that I'm looking at, either it's online or I look at another Hot Wheels in order to do this, in order to make headlights look realistic. And we're gonna move over to the other headlight as well here. And there we go. So that looks pretty good. And we're just going to do the sides now. All right. And then to the other side. In any case, you make a mistake where it's not even, so you see how this one is much far back than this one. You can go ahead and just clean your brush out again. Grab some of the white paint. And then just go over where you made that mistake. Just lightly go over it, clean it up. And then just try again, so you can get the result that you're looking for. So I'm gonna go ahead and fix that. And there we go, that looks much better, it looks pretty even. And that's kind of pretty much it for just the front headlights. Now you can add a little bit more detail into them with a little bit more black on the top of these headlights over here to give them a little bit more definition. But I think this looks pretty good. So we're gonna move on to our bottom part of here, where we have some of the blinkers, I believe, and the grills that we have. And I'll show you how we're gonna go ahead and detail those. Now we're not gonna use a brush anymore. We're gonna go ahead and move over to using a toothpick for this. And the toothpick actually looks pretty good because it leaves pretty clean lines. So here, this car is the reference car that I'm kind of looking at in order to match the details. Now this is a premium version of the car that I'm working on. The one that I have is just a mainline. This one is a premium one. And usually the premium ones have nice details already on them that you don't have to paint. So I'm just gonna go ahead and look at this one and the way that it looks. So it has a little silver or white parts here, black here, and in the bottom it's going to be black. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that same detailing onto my car. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and get our toothpick, and we're going to go ahead and dab our toothpick into the paint just like we did with the brush, but we're only going to just do the tip. Some of these parts have little grooves on them, and so the toothpick actually works perfectly to go right into those grooves and leave a nice area that gets painted in. I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side just like we did this side. And I've found that using toothpicks specifically for these little small little areas works very nice, and it leaves a nice clean look. Now we're gonna go ahead and move over to the bigger area. That's gonna be the bottom grills that we have down here. Again, we dab some, and then we go ahead and paint with our toothpick. You may not have brushes, so you could still do everything that I'm doing with the toothpick. Obviously you can get toothpicks anywhere, so you could just need a little bit of paint, toothpicks, and you can do all these detailing without a brush. And now we're gonna go ahead and look at it, and look how nice that actually turned out to be. Toothpick does wonders. Now we're just gonna do the little other parts right here on the side. We're gonna grab some white and we're gonna go ahead and paint those in. And then after we're done with that, we're gonna go ahead and add just a little bit more details to the headlights to our final look. The white paint that I have here, it tends to dry out pretty quickly, or it starts to get like kind of gluey. So I end up getting some more, and then I just dab a new spot for a fresh little puddle that I have here going. And we'll get a new toothpick. We'll go ahead and dab some of that in. We're gonna fill in these last spots that we have here. And look at that. Looks very good. If we compare it to this other car that's the premium, the only thing that is missing is the details that are on the headlights that we have here, that we're just gonna go ahead and apply a little bit of black to give that definition there. So all you really need to do is just get a little bit of paint on your brush, and then you'll just add small little dabs around the headlight here, and then we'll add some here. And if you do put too much, you can go ahead and just add some white on top of it, and then just balance it out. Like I said, there's no really wrong way of doing this. It all just takes practice, and the more you do it, the better that you will get at detailing these lights. Now I'm just going very quickly. I'm doing that just because I'm just gonna grab some white and then adjust the areas that I have where there is a little too much black that I added on to the headlight. So like we can see what it kind of looks like now. So we're gonna go ahead and clean our brush, grab some of the white paint, and then just dab a little bit in here to give a little bit of definition to this. And there we go. I would say it turned out to be pretty good. I'm going to compare it to this car that we have here. Obviously mine's a little bit lighter because I'm using white, and I think there is some gray or silverish parts that are on this car, but it looks pretty good. Now if you want to get move on to the next step and kind of give it more definition, you can see that here it's black for the grills, and this one has a gray bottom versus a black bottom here. You can go ahead and take the car apart and then paint inside of the grills up there black, and then the bottom here as well. You can paint here, but when you start painting here, you may get some on the top up here or in here, and then you're gonna have to go and clean that. So it's just easier to take it apart, paint the plastic, put it back in, and then it'll look pretty clean, just like this one that we have here. So our first car we have completed, and I think it looks pretty good. We are gonna go ahead and move on to our second car, and we're kind of do the same steps that we did with the first one. So here we are with our second car. We're gonna do the same exact thing that we did. However, this time we are gonna go ahead and make a mistake, and I'm gonna show you how we're gonna go ahead and clean that off and continue with detailing the headlights even though we made a mistake. We're gonna get some black on our brush. Let's say you're over here painting away and accidentally you got some on the hood over here on the top. Normally, even if I get some in some places where I don't want it to, I'll just continue finishing painting the rest of the headlight, and then I'll go ahead and fix the mistake that I made. Mistakes happen all the time, and honestly, I don't even know how many times I've made mistakes already with doing this. Just painting over and over again. But that's how you get good. You make mistakes, you fix those mistakes, and you keep pushing. Okay, so we're done here, but as you can see here on the hood, we've made a mistake. So we're gonna go ahead and clean that mistake and get back to just having a clean headlight that we had. Here we're gonna use a toothpick. Now I use these special toothpicks that I've gotten from Amazon. I'm not exactly sure what they're called, but I could just add them into a description down on the bottom, and then you can get the same exact ones that I'm using here. So all I'll do is I'll go ahead and dab some of it into the alcohol. Make sure that it's not too wet, so I'll just go ahead and dry it up a little bit. And then I'll just swipe across the area where I messed up. And I usually do it once, and then I kind of turn the toothpick around, and then I'll do the other side. And the reason I do that is because if you do the same side multiple times, you'll go ahead and smear the paint, and then you're gonna have more work that you'll need to do in order to clean that up. But as you can see here, the mistake that we made, we went to go ahead and clean it up. And if you did remove some of the paint, additional paint that you had, you can just go in and just paint over it again, and you'll fix that mistake that you made. I usually don't hold the cars like this when I paint. I have a stand that I have on them, because when I open them up, I usually just put them on that stand. So it is a little bit difficult for me actually to paint like this. I'm not really used to it, but it's all the same. Once you notice that the paintbrush gets a little bit dry, just go ahead and dab some more paint, and then continue finishing all the areas of the headlight. There we go. Looks pretty good. Now, I have this car as a reference. Now, this car I already did myself recently. I just painted on the headlights, so I'm just kind of going off of this in order to make it look like this one onto this car over here. There isn't much detail that I did for the headlights. I just kind of added another white layer on top of them, and then once that dried, I added a little bit of kind of like highlights to the lights to make them stand out. So we might do it exactly like this one, or we might switch it up with this one. And we're gonna go ahead and cover the black parts. Make sure you leave a little bit of black around the edges, because this will give the headlights a little bit more of a realistic look. Sometimes I'll just outline and then fill in, or sometimes I'll just eyeball it. And if I do make some kind of mistake, I'll just go ahead with black and then just outline the parts where I made the mistake. It takes a little practice, but once you get the hang of it, honestly, you'll be a pro at this. All right, so there we go. Looks pretty good. If by some chance the headlight or the paint that you did, the white parts, is uneven, and let's say you went over it, and then you maybe covered up the black part underneath, you can then just go ahead and dab some of the black and then just correct that and just make a very fine line over that, and then you can fix that mistake that you made. But this looks pretty good. And so we are gonna go ahead and grab our toothpick now, and we're gonna go ahead and make some black marks within the grill, some of the parts here, and then in the fog lights as well. All right, here we go. One down. And two down, and I'm just go ahead and fixing the other side just to match. And look at that, looks pretty good. So again, we'll go into the grooves. Looks good. And the fog lights now. I make it look easy because it is easy. So it really is. The toothpick does wonders. So don't feel like you need brushes in order to do good detail on the cars. You can just use a toothpick literally for everything. So there we go. We have done that. We added all the black parts here for the front end of our car. Now we're just gonna go ahead and adjust a little bit of the headlights up here with some black, just to give it a little bit of a nice definition. So let's go ahead and finish the rest of these headlights that we have. We're just gonna go ahead and add some black. Now I brought up a little reference that I'm looking at. Honestly, I don't think I'm gonna be able to do it just as good as the reference that I'm looking at, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do the best that I can. It's also hard because I don't have the stand that I normally do it, and doing it over the camera, over my hands like this, yeah, it's a little bit difficult. So we're just gonna go ahead and attempt to do. Honestly, I don't know how I feel about that. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and clean that up and go a different route, to be honest. And that's what I'm saying. Sometimes you make a mistake and you go ahead and you fix it. And you can see how easy it is to just fix a mistake that you made. And start all over again. All right, let's go ahead and try this again. All right. Just gonna add our sides over here. I kind of line it up right with the hood over here, so you can see the line goes down here, and then I added the line there. So kind of gives me a guideline. All right, not too bad. And we're just gonna go ahead and get a little bit of the black. and just add those little dots to give our headlights a little definition. I think you've noticed that I'm moving the car back and forth, and that's just because it's a little uncomfortable to hold it like this. What do you think? Good? Not good? I think we just have to add a little bit of white, and then it'll start to look the way we want it to look. And there we go. I would say it doesn't look too bad. I think last, what we're gonna go ahead and do, I'm just gonna add a little bit of a little white dot here and a little white dot there. That's gonna be for the fog lights, and then we'll be done with this car. I'm gonna go ahead and grab our toothpick, and then very, very, very carefully just add a little dot. Right there, and a little dot right there. I think this one needs a little more. All right, and there we go. Obviously, it looks, I would probably say a little better than the reference that I had. This one I just kind of did really quickly because I just made like a little simple custom for myself. So I wasn't really focusing too much on the headlights, but I think this one came out to be pretty good. I like the way it looks. Here are both of the cars that we did. And honestly, from far away, they look like decals. Looks like little stickers, and it's really that simple. Just a little patience and paint. If you don't have any brushes, you can go ahead and get some toothpicks, and then like I said, for the paint, I just use paint markers, but I just put them a little bit on this tin foil, and then just put little dabs on here, and then use the paintbrush in order to paint the cars. I have tried before with just getting the marker and then painting like this. There are some fine tips on some of the markers that I have here. So like, for instance, I have this orange one here, and then there is this fine tip, but sometimes they tend to leak. And when they leak on the car, that's more problems for me to fix. And then I have to go back and forth and then clean it up and do that. So I usually will just dab, grab the paintbrush, and then just paint it that way. But that's pretty much it. I'd want to say thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like and give me some suggestions on something else I can do. Thanks for watching.